This week, that fan has beaten cancer, graduated, attended prom, and continues to inspire. I've shown you guys Shedeur Sanders spending time with someone that's battling cancer, number one. Number two,
A video everybody forgot about just came back. Months ago, Shedeur Sanders sat down with a young man fighting sickle cell disease and cancer. No cameras chasing him, no press release, just a visit. Now, that same kid is cancer-free. He graduated, he went to prom, and the second that update hit, it did something nobody expected. It stopped the noise. Because while people keep saying the locker room doesn't want him, the coaches don't trust him, the receipts keep landing one after another. Today, we're going through every single one. Let's start with the actual update, because this is the part almost nobody is talking about right now. Back in the spring, before OTAs, before camp, before any of the quarterback competition talk even started, Shedeur Sanders visited a young man who was fighting two things at once: sickle cell disease and cancer. That's not a light visit. That's not a photo op you schedule for a headline. That's the kind of thing you do when nobody's asking you to. Fast forward to this week, the update comes out. That young man beat cancer. He graduated. He went to prom. Read that again. He went to prom. A kid who was in a hospital bed fighting for his life is now walking across a stage and dancing at prom. And one of the people who sat with him through it was a rookie quarterback everybody loves to argue about. Here's why this resurfacing matters right now and not 6 months ago. It's landing in the same week where the entire conversation around Shedeur has been locker room drama, quarterback competition drama. Is he liked? Is he not liked? Do the coaches trust him or not? And then this drops in the middle of it like a reminder. Before any of the noise, before any of the debate about starting jobs, this is who the guy actually is when the cameras aren't rolling for a stat line. You know how these stories usually go. Team does something nice, PR department pushes it out immediately, everybody claps for a day, then it disappears. This one wasn't pushed like that. It sat there. It only came back up because somebody actually followed up on the kid's story months later. That's the difference between a moment and a pattern. And that's really the theme of everything we're covering today. Every time somebody tries to build a narrative that Shedeur Sanders is a problem, a distraction, someone the locker room is tired of, something like this surfaces and makes that narrative a lot harder to sell. So let's actually look at where this story started.
heartwarming update. Shout out to ML football. Browns Pro Bowler Shedeur Sanders visited a young man battling both sickle cell disease and cancer to lift his spirits a couple of months ago. This week, that fan has beaten cancer, graduated, attended prom, and continues to inspire. God is good.
Stop for a second. Read that timeline again. A hospital visit months ago, a cancer-free graduate this week. That's not a story you fabricate for clout. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because right after that update, the conversation flips straight into the locker room debate. And this is the part people keep repeating without ever backing it up. The claim is simple. The players don't like him. The coaches don't like him. He's a problem in that building. So let's actually test that claim instead of just repeating it. If a rookie is genuinely disliked in a locker room, you don't usually get his actual teammates going out of their way to be seen with him publicly. You don't get a receiver who just got to the building this year calling the quarterback competition amazing and calling both guys great teammates. You don't get another wide receiver spending free time filming content with him for a shoe brand. Those aren't things you fake for a camera crew that's just trying to sell shoes. And when you actually push back on the people repeating the locker room narrative, watch what happens. They can't name who has a problem with him. Not one specific player, not one specific coach. It's always vague. It's always sources say or the vibe in the building. When you ask for a name, the conversation moves to something else entirely, usually back to what happened last season, which has nothing to do with whether his current teammates respect him right now. Meanwhile, you've got actual named players on record, a rookie receiver saying the quarterback room is amazing, another one out there with him off the clock, a general manager who got a contract extension, a former head coach who moved on to a head coaching job somewhere else. Everybody involved in that so-called disaster season landed on their feet. which is a strange outcome if the guy at the center of it was actually the problem. This is the pattern people keep missing. The critics never bring specifics, they bring a feeling. And feelings don't hold up well against a rookie receiver going on record, a Nike shoot with actual teammates, and now a cancer survivor talking about the guy who sat with him before any of this quarterback competition even started. When you stack the specifics next to the vague criticism runs out of road fast. Think about how strange it actually is when you slow down and look at it. If this locker room genuinely couldn't stand him, you'd expect at least one anonymous quote with actual detail. Not a vibe, not a feeling, an actual sentence describing an actual moment where a teammate got frustrated with him on the practice field, in a meeting, in the huddle, anywhere. Reporters cover this team every single day. If that moment existed, somebody would have printed it by now. Instead, what gets printed is always a variation of the same phrase recycled from the same handful of voices without a single new detail added since last season. That's usually the tell. Real locker room tension leaks. It shows up in body language during a post-game interview, in a coach getting a pointed question and dodging it, and a player getting asked directly and giving a stiff, careful non-answer. None of that has happened here. Every teammate asked about him gives the same relaxed, specific praise. That's not what tension looks like from the inside.
What would be the problem with him being a backup?
Everything that went on last year, do you really want to relive that?
Sometimes you're talking about yourself. No, do you really want to relive that? I wasn't going. A lot of people over here didn't have no problem. Where's the problem? Who lived through something? Only person that turned out before is Kevin Stefanski. Everybody else is cool. Andrew Berry got a raise. Todd Monken got a new job. Shedeur got reps.
If the locker room really hated him, why can nobody name who? Now, let's get into the piece that actually carries the most weight here, because this isn't a teammate being nice on camera. This is a quarterback coach breaking down actual film, unprompted, about how Shedeur processes the game. Here's what he said in his own words. He talked about being blown away by Shedeur's vision of the field, not his arm, not his athleticism, his vision. He described moments in practice where Shedeur would throw a route that didn't make sense in real time, something the coach himself didn't immediately understand watching it live. But then they'd go back, pull up the tape, and the coach would see exactly what Shedeur saw first. A safety sitting on the underneath route, a window opening over the top that only shows up if you're already thinking 2 steps ahead of the defense. That's not a small thing to say about a rookie quarterback. Coaches don't usually admit that a young player saw something on the field before they did. That's an admission that the guy is already operating at a level most rookies aren't close to yet. And it lines up with something else that came out separately. The offensive coordinator from his college days said almost the exact same thing about his football IQ. 2 different coaches, 2 different programs, 2 different times in his career, both landing on the same conclusion independently. That's not a talking point somebody coordinated. That's a pattern showing up across every level he's played at. Now, think about what that actually means for the locker room narrative. Teammates respect players who make the game easier for everyone around them. A quarterback who sees the defense before the play unfolds, who can explain exactly why he made a read after the fact, who shows up early running routes on his own with a random receiver just to get extra work in. That's the exact profile of a guy teammates rally behind, not the profile of a guy causing problems. So you've got a rookie receiver calling him a great teammate. You've got a wide receiver spending personal time with him off the field. You've got a young man who beat cancer talking about the visit that lifted him up before any of this started. And now you've got a position coach going out of his way to praise his football mind in specific, film-backed detail. That's 4 separate people, 4 separate contexts, all pointing the same direction. The critics have had months to produce one specific counterexample. They haven't.
I'm blown away. I think Shedeur has really good vision of the field. He'll say things in practice sometimes. I'll be like, what did you get there? Or I'll see something on the field
that doesn't resonate with me. And then when I go back and watch it on video, he might be throwing the deep post versus post safety look in what is maybe a jog through type of tempo, but then sure enough I see that the post safety sat on the crosser and gave a post over the top, and so his vision with his work ethic has been good to see.
A quarterback coach admitting a rookie saw the field better than he did live? Let that sit. So if the receipts keep piling up in his favor, why does the criticism keep coming back every single week like clockwork? This is actually the bigger question. And it's not really about whether Shedeur can play. It's about whether sports media coverage itself has changed shape. Think about how this worked 20 years ago. A reporter wrote a take, an editor reviewed it, it ran, and that was mostly the end of it. There wasn't a comment section blowing up in real time. There wasn't a clip getting quote tweeted 10,000 times an hour after it posted. Today, every single opinion gets an immediate, loud, public response. And that response doesn't just sit there quietly. It feeds back into the coverage. Here's the loop. A reporter states an opinion. Fans push back hard. The reporter defends the opinion instead of reconsidering it because walking it back in public feels like losing. The fans get more hostile because now it feels personal instead of analytical. And by the third or fourth round of that cycle, the actual football conversation is gone. It's not about whether Shedeur can read a defense anymore. It's about who wins the argument in the replies. That changes what gets published. A hot, dramatic, half-supported take generates more engagement than a measured one. And engagement is the incentive the whole system runs on now. So the loudest, most repeatable version of a story survives, even when it's the version with the least evidence behind it. The locker room hates him is simple, quotable, and dramatic. A rookie receiver said the competition is amazing and a QB coach broke down his film reads for 2 minutes doesn't fit in a headline the same way. That's the real explanation here.
The real discussion isn't why the media hates Shedeur. It's has the media changed the way sports media covers athletes? The framing is broader, more defensible. It's meaningful debate. Here are the several angles that make this very compelling. Social media effect. 20 years ago, journalists mostly answered to editors. Today, they are also responding to fan quote tweets, YouTube clips, thousands of comments every single day. Does that pressure change coverage? I'd argue yes. When fans fight back, does the coverage change? This creates a feedback loop. Reporters establish opinions. Fans push back. Reporter defends opinion. Fans become more hostile. Coverage becomes even more personal. Everyone becomes entrenched. It becomes a cycle instead of objective analysis.
It was never really about the tape. It's about which version of the story travels the furthest. Let's put the whole picture back together. A quarterback who quietly visited a kid fighting cancer months before any of this locker room talk started, and that kid is now cancer-free and walking across a graduation stage. A rookie receiver on the record calling the quarterback room amazing and both guys great teammates. Another receiver spending personal time with him off the field for a brand shoot nobody made him show up for. And a position coach breaking down play-by-play how this rookie is already seeing defenses before the coach does on tape. That's 4 completely separate receipts from 4 separate people in 4 separate settings, and every single one of them points the same direction. Meanwhile, the other side of this argument still hasn't produced one specific name, one specific quote, one specific moment that backs up the idea that this locker room has turned on him. It's been months of the same vague claim repeated without a single new piece of evidence added to it. When the specifics all point one way and the criticism stays vague every single time, that's usually your answer. The receipts aren't just piling up anymore, they're burying the argument that started this whole thing, one confirmed name at a time. So here's the real question for the comments. Do you think this locker room narrative ever had anything real behind it, or has it just been repeated so many times that people assumed it had to be true? Because right now you've got a cancer survivor talking about a hospital visit nobody made him take, a rookie receiver on record calling the quarterback room amazing, and a position coach breaking down film that shows a rookie seeing the game a step ahead of the defense. That's not what a locker room in crisis looks like. That's what a locker room rallying behind a guy looks like. Drop your take below and let us know which one of these 4 receipts hit you the hardest. Smash like and subscribe.